That was so funny. It's so funny.
But then again, I mean,
That's so awesome.
Oh, I got a great.
That was, but then again, he never really fit the bill for Brian Roberts. That was 2021. No, now I'm not. So he was in a burger.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a 5-star. That's easy. The guy foreign transfer. That's crazy. It's all there. Yeah, I didn't really get to the one game I watched Ohio State.
Yeah, wait. There's no guarantee.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, wait. Oh, yeah, College Board transfers. Yeah, Devin Brown and like. I didn't think it. There was one. There was a day. Yeah, you can get over the stadium. Yeah. Oh, Jack sort of. I really don't. He looks. I remember after the long mission, a signings here for
I didn't jump on the bandwagon.
it was where Jackson lived, and I go up to his coach. He's like, this was like a month before. Like, yeah, Jackson's back. Just be ready. Yeah, Jack's coming back. And he really hasn't played really at all.
Yeah.
He's not making.
What did you do wrong?
Stanley got it. Both of his ACLs, right?
You have that happen.
I remember there was someone on the high stage that day, like Linebacker, all sorts of smash movie. Maybe. Yeah. I don't remember his name. Yeah, it was somebody who like came back. It wasn't.
That was the first hockey game I ever went to. Didn't appreciate it.
I mean, relatively young. Yeah, it's great. Oh, then they have a 5-star who's not even touched the field. Miley Graham. Miley Graham is brilliant. Nobody talks about him. He was a 5-star from just South Indiana. He knows Fort Wayne, Indiana.
May not have.
Yeah, that's cool.
You going tomorrow?
I'm like, no, I still cover it. We had a good one too. I didn't know that. I didn't cover that team though. That was there. That was last year.
Let him grab it.
Yeah, they got
The captain and stuff.
Yeah, I felt team's going to be really happy. Yeah.
James Pierce is still. James Pierce is still healthy. As long as he's there healthy. Tennessee's got problems too. Not great.
Yeah, he's been tried for
We got a lot of preseason.
First off,
Who among us? I need more friends. Dude's got 22 pressure this year. What do you mean he hasn't landed yet?
I don't care about that. I was looking at two mock drafts for his career. I saw him where he's like 18 or something. Like he has a 22 small. Same with the others. But no, yeah, Michael Williams.
I think we all think he's pretty good, right?
Yes.
I don't want to, I can also use my whole list.
Nothing that one minute.
I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember.
I was like, I will be on it. And I watched it, like thinking that, okay, maybe I'll see it. He's good.
I can try. You can just run up share for him. Run pretty well, so hopefully he doesn't go somewhere. He's gonna do it. No, dude, I'm Kevin in here. Yeah, I'm pretty fixed. I'm not dynasty where like it's like my friends I just do run the team like together. Oh really? We want to do that, but apparently like someone else in our league is like sure to just like acquire picks. Straight up. Yeah, either one.
Yeah, that's why, that's another reason why I don't want to go around with this next week, or, I guess it's
27.
yeah, Chiefs, yeah, you're gonna have somebody good ones. Yeah. I was thinking.
That was their wall of text.
Typed out.
One opening statement. Yeah, see how good Jeremiah's picture is like different wins for me. There were different questions.
Maybe when I had a stroke.
I'm sorry. I was the only one on the last game. There's always kind of like Wilt for Wilt. Riggs for Ryan. I thought it I do think, that'll be an you would think that, at least it doesn't look like it would be going 1, 2. Yeah, I mean, right now.
All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and just take questions right away for Coach Sheridan. Leave your hands up if you will. We'll start on the left here with Colin.
Hey, Nick, how have you seen, I guess, Jalen Milrose has seen a lot of more pressure. How have you, like over the past few weeks, he's going to see a stout defensive line in Tennessee this Saturday. What have you seen in his decision-making when, teams are pressuring him more? How has he kind of responded to, I guess, the weight of, sack opportunities, tackles for loss, things like that?
Yeah, I think Jalen has responded great in those moments. I think there's always going to be plays where you wish you could do something different. I think that's the nature of playing the position. And so there were some learning opportunities that, occurred in the game this past week, and that occur every game, where choices you make, decisions you make that work out, in your favor, and maybe it wasn't the right decision, and so you still learn from there. And then obviously, when the result isn't what you want, relative to the end of the play, you learn, you grow, you improve, you have conversations and communication of why that happened. And there's always a story to every, poor decision or every mistake that you make. And so we just talk through that, learn, grow, improve, and try to, get better throughout the week of prep, and try to put them in, not just Jalen, but all the other players, in positions where, things that you didn't execute as well as you'd like, you put them in that position in practice so you can improve and get better.
Jump to the right side here, Nick.
Hey, Nick, you have been on the other side of this rivalry going back to your GA days there. What stands out to you about the third Saturday in October?
I think just the passion, the intensity of the game, that's what stands out the most. The environments that you compete in are as good as it gets in college football. And, And so that's what stands out the most in this game.
Jump over to the left. Katie.
What have you seen or maybe liked about the depth at wide receiver when you've had some guys out with Kendrick and Kobe missing a little bit of time?
Yeah, I've appreciated the efforts of the guys, and playing multiple spots and having to learn different positions. I think Coach Shep has done a great job of that. I think you see Caleb Odom just continuing to grow and learn multiple spots, playing different, positions on the field. Cole obviously had some big plays in the game. And so, with just the rotation of players that are up each week, obviously Ryan and Germ have been steady and productive for us, but I think the depth of that room has certainly helped us. E-Man has had some good moments. And so, I know there's other guys too that I'm probably leaving out, but I think it's a deep room, and they're improving each and every week. And Coach Shep's doing a great job of mentoring, molding, coaching, all of the above. And I think, those guys have contributed and helped us for sure.
Go to the back of the room, Ryan.
Coach, how pleased are you with the run game so far? And obviously you want to see more no matter what, but what's the ceiling for this backfield?
I wouldn't ever probably use the word pleased. I don't think in any area really. We're always trying to improve. I thought, we took strides running the ball in the game this past week. We had some negative yardage plays that really kind of skewed the numbers that way, but I thought there was some really strong, tough physical runs by both Jam and Justice in the game. And so there was things to be encouraged by how we ran the ball at times. I think across the board, we're looking for consistency. That's in all areas. There were certainly things that we can do better, both in the run game and in the pass game from this past week. And every week presents new challenges, and so, you flip the page, you go to the next week, you start, breaking down the next opponent and the things that you're going to have to do to be successful. And that is in all areas offensively. But I thought there was some physicality up front. I thought there was some tough running that occurred. We have to eliminate the negative yardage plays that obviously hurt us in the game. And so I saw strides. I wouldn't use the word pleased, but I would say that there was improvement made.
Go to Ariel, all the way back in the middle.
Coach, sticking with the upfront unit, what is maybe the message to those guys concerning quarterback protection leading up into Tennessee?
I didn't, just being very blunt and honest, I thought that we did a nice job, big picture, blocking, this past week in pass pro. Some of the issues that we had protectionally were a little bit more schematic than they were individual. And so I was proud. I thought there was a tough task last week with the two edge rushers that we were going against, and I was really, by and large, pleased with the effort on the edges and inside. It wasn't perfect. There were certainly a few plays that I know those guys would like back. I thought there were some tough spots we put them in, particularly at the end of the half when you're, they know you're throwing the ball. And even some of those weren't, they were a little bit more schematic or quarterback location in the pocket. And so I thought by and large that the guys up front did a nice job in pass pro. Like I said, some of the issues that we had or the sacks that occurred were a little bit more schematic than they were, one-on-one breakdowns.
Emily Grace, right in the middle there.
Coach, what do you feel like the next progression point is for Jalen that you want to see him meet in these next few weeks?
I think each week is a new challenge. I think you're just continuing to grow, continue to learn. We talk to the players every week that every time you go out there on the field, you send a message or an invitation. And so, when you have things that you do well, you're sending a message to the other team that this is something that we're really good at. And when you struggle with something, any player, any scheme, any coach, then you're inviting them to try to see if you fixed it. And so I think that occurs each and every week for us. And so Jalen's no different, our whole offensive unit, things that we have done well, obviously the opponent is looking at that and trying to find ways to slow you down in those areas. And then things that you struggled with or have, not executed as cleanly, they're going to, try to show you, see if you've improved in those areas. So I think for all of us, it's identifying the things that we need to be better at and trying to fix those issues as you're moving forward to the next game.
Any other questions for Coach Sheridan? Starting with our last one here, right?
Just when you watch film of Tennessee, what stands out about their defense, particularly their front seven?
I would just say the size and athleticism. I think there's depth up front. I think they're very well coached. I have familiarity with the coaches on that staff and have a tremendous amount of respect for them. But I think the depth, the size, the speed, the athleticism, They're excellent, and obviously have been very productive. I think they've been, outstanding in critical moments, short yardage situations, red zone situations. Some of the plays that not just the front but the entire unit, they've really risen up and made some really quality plays in some critical moments that have kept teams, out of the end zone. And it's impressive, both for their coaches to get their players to perform at a high level in those moments, and certainly for the players to execute at those times. It's been impressive to see, on film. Okay, roll Tide.
All right, same routine. We'll have Coach begin with his opening statement, and then we'll take questions. Whenever you're ready, Coach.
Okay, certainly, when you look at the game the other day, I thought pleased to get the win, to be able to fight and battle the way that our guys are fighting right now. It was special to find a way to come up with an interception to win a game. We've gotten to do that twice now, and those are always rewarding for a defense. They're always special moments, right, to be able to step up when it matters most, and certainly we were able to do that in the game. I think our guys have an appreciation for finding a way to win, and yet players and coaches alike, there's certainly an urgency to continue to build and grow as a football team so that we can be the team that we feel like we are capable of being as we continue to navigate through SEC play. We had from a chance defensively to be explosive. We had 13 game changers, 12 was our goal, 4 takeaways, 4 sacks, 3 3-and-outs, and then 2 fourth down stops, including a missed field goal. From what we call the double positives, the explosive plays given up, and then the turnover margin. We had 9 explosives on offense. We gave up 5 on defense. We gave up 1 explosive run and 4 passes. And then obviously we won the turnover margin by +2. So that really probably being the key to the game as much as anything from a defensive perspective is when you can take the ball away from somebody 4 different times, that's certainly going to make it hard to be able to navigate against. I thought as the game went on, they had some really good wrinkles, and I thought we adjusted pretty well to some of those things. They were doing some different run game out of 12 personnel that they had not shown. Some Dow Loggins, their offensive coordinator, has always done a tremendous job. Had some different wrinkles that they were doing, and I thought we adjusted to that pretty well on the fly. Credit our defensive staff and our players for making those adjustments, and it gave us a chance to get off the field on third down in the second half, but we did not do that nearly to the consistency that I think that we are capable of, or that we need to be in order to be a consistent defense. You know, we started out the first half, we went 5-0 on third down, got off the field, and then gave up a 4th and 9, which is just obviously an unacceptable play and an error on our part from a execution standpoint. And then we started off the second half going 0 for 5 on third down, and then came back and went 3 for 5 in the last 5 third downs. And so that continues to be an area where we are not operating at an optimum level. If we want to be the defense that I think we are capable of being, we have to execute at a more consistent level on third down. When you look at it, there certainly were some challenging things that USC presented for us, but particularly on third down, it was a lack of execution on our part, putting our eyes in the right place, doing our job at a consistent level. And so those are things that we've got to continue to do. And that's not just in pass coverage. Some of it was in pass rush. I do think we took some steps in the right direction from a pass rush standpoint, where we were able to generate pressure on the quarterback. I think that's part of why we were able to get takeaways in the game. We were able to get sacks in the game, but we're still not optimizing our ability to rush as a unit on a consistent basis, and then play coverage on a consistent basis on third down, and particularly in fourth down. So those are certainly the areas that we've got to emphasize as we moving forward, as we navigate ourselves moving forward into playing Tennessee. With that, looking ahead to Tennessee, I think Josh Heupel's just done a fantastic job over the last few years with their program. I think they have continued to improve the overall talent level of their roster. I think they are playing with more depth as a football team. And then, there's a number of explosive playmakers that they can get the ball to. I think their running back is elite. I think he has done Sampson, I believe, right, is his last name. Really impressive what he's been able to do. I think he's dynamic with the ball in his hand. He's got really good patience in their run schemes. He will make guys miss at the point of contact, constantly creating yards after contact as well. And then some very explosive athletes on the outside that when they've been able to get the ball out there to them, they've had tremendous success on offense. And that's something that, they are a team that on any given down can create an explosive play. And so that's something that we're going to have to be very mindful of. We're going to have to be very thorough as a defense. And I think ultimately it's going to be about our consistency doing the same high-level job over and over again in order to play, at an optimum level on Saturday. So looking forward to the competition, looking forward to going to Neyland Stadium, and we're going to have a great week of practice and preparation to get ready for it.
Thanks, Coach. Let's start on the right side with Charlie.
Yeah, hey, Coach, kind of a two-part question. Just how would you assess your defense's tackling, and where do you stand on maybe when players stand defenders up trying to get the ball out rather than just trying to take them to the ground?
Yeah, I think fine line, to answer your second question first, I think there's a fine line there of trying to create takeaways, right? The first man to the ball always needs to make sure that he is securing the tackle. Second man, right, can work to a position to be able to try to get the ball out. More often than not, you see creating a takeaway or a fumble with maybe at the point of attack. Usually when a guy gets wrapped up, he starts to secure the ball at a little bit higher level. That's not always the case. Sometimes with a quarterback or somebody trying to work to get out of the pocket, from a quarterback in the pocket standpoint. But for us, I think we've got to continue to harp on the fundamentals of how we're tackling. When we don't operate with a hard shoulder tackle, all of a sudden we're giving up some yards after contact. I think we have been inconsistent from a tackling standpoint. A lot of that is making sure that we're leveraging the ball properly in vision coverage and that we're driving to the ball. So now, there's less space, right, that we can take away from before the ball, the guy even starts to get going. So I think there's certainly room for error. That improvement there, that's something that you constantly are going to continue to work throughout the season, and teams like Tennessee are going to force you to make space tackles over and over again. So it's critical that we continue to improve.
Left side, Chase.
When Arkansas held Tennessee to 14 points a couple weeks ago, they did it playing a lot of dime. You don't seem to be the biggest fan of playing 6 DBs, but when Tennessee goes empty with their vertical threats and the receivers get those splits all the way out to the sideline, does that force any DC to look at playing dime?
Well, I think, I think when you look at what this team is, this is a run football team. They are spreading you out with their receiver splits so that they can establish one-on-ones in the run game, and that they can basically say, they're going to separate the pass coverage from the box responsibility and who's leveraging those plays. So for us, based off of the different personnel groupings they have and based off the formations that they're going to come out in, we're going to have to be able to defend the lateral space and the vertical space on the outside, but also make sure that we're leveraging the box, because this is a run football team. They want to establish the run, and then they set that up to take shots downfield. So I think for us, you don't want to get too far away from home base, who you are and what you do. But from a personnel package standpoint, we're always going to look at, whatever we think is the optimal, scheme and personnel to get our players in the right position.
Jump over to the right side here, Nick.
Yeah, having coached against USF in week 2, how does that help you in preparation for facing Tennessee now?
Well, I think, you look at a lot of the things that we have to do through the week of preparation. One of the hardest things to do when you're dealing with a team that has non-traditional formations and the wide splits, and they're going tempo as fast as you've seen from anybody you face, being able to manufacture that in practice every day is the hardest thing, that we have to do. And so our scout teams have gotten reps at some of those things. We've looked at what worked well that week and what we needed to improve on, just in terms of the look that we had to give. And so that probably, as much as anything, is a help. Certainly, there's things that, that we put on tape, right, that they're going to look at, we're going to look at. But really each game is even though they're in the same system, and it is the same system, what Tennessee is doing versus what South Florida is doing, there are enough differences there, and they have different identities in terms of what they're trying to get accomplished. So, certainly from a week of preparation, that'll be something that's huge for our scout teams.
Put Alex in the middle there.
When you see the errors in execution, does it cause you to pull back on what you'd like to call as the play caller? And then just how do you think about the value of just simplicity versus throwing a bunch of wrinkles at an opponent?
Yeah, no, that's ultimately the give and take that we're trying to look at every single week. What can we go execute at a high level and do it consistently, and yet still have enough wrinkles so that we're not a vanilla defense that teams feel like, okay, they're able to lock in and attack. And I think, early on we showed a few different things to set some things up as we navigated into SEC play. So now we've started to show more of those wrinkles. We were able to show a lot more this past week from a standpoint of some pressures and some little nuances and change-ups that we had not shown before. And we'll keep throwing some of those wrinkles in as we go. That's one of the things that are an advantage, right, as a first-year defense, right? There's always going to be some wrinkles and things that you go and throw in. I felt like in the game, you want to make sure that you are simple enough, right, so that our players can go execute. That's constantly the battle that we're looking at. Okay, what are we doing on third down and fourth down that we didn't execute well enough? Okay, well, is it if it's an execution issue, is it something that we can call differently? We limit some of the things that we're calling. We get really good at this, or we're going to manufacture some pressure through something else from a scheme perspective. So, I don't mean to be too vague, but I also don't want to give away the house there. But I think there's a fine line there of what we need to be able to do. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what we call. If we can't execute it to consistency, we're going to have a problem. Some of that is just the growing pains of a new defense in year one, and that we're going to have to continue to work through. So you can't sit there and throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, right? Where all of a sudden now you're saying, hey, I'm going to get rid of this call that's been very beneficial for us over the years, and we're going to get rid of it because we didn't execute it well enough in week 2, 3, 4. When in week 6, 7, and 8, if we'll just continue to stay at our process, I think those things will come to fruition.
Stay on the left side with Katie.
What did you learn about your depth at corner when Damani was out for a little bit in that game? We saw some of the younger guys rotating in, and then just kind of how vital is Damani's experience at that position?
Well, I mean, Damani's experience has shown up in a number of ways, and he stepped up in some big moments. Obviously, having the interception at the end of the game, credit him coming back from getting banged up in the game and to be able to fight back. I think, Damani is operating with a lot of maturity, a lot of mental toughness. And then, he has really kind of helped set the tone for that room, along with Coach Lindquist is doing a tremendous job with those young players and building continuity in their technique and their fundamentals so that they can go out and execute to the highest level of their ability right on game day. And so, you're ready or you're not, right? And so for those guys, I thought it was good for them to get in there to get some meaningful quality reps. I think Jalen Mbakwe stepped up in some really big moments as well, and so encouraged to see some of that youth gain experience in meaningful SEC games.
Let's go to the front row on the right there, Kenny.
Two-part question. When you went back and watched the fourth down touchdown conversion, what did you see that led to that coverage bust, and what type of teaching moment does that present?
Yeah, so often what happens in coverage, right, is a domino effect of one player doesn't do something, so now another player gets ready to compensate for it, and then all of a sudden, you may have taken away their first or second read, but ultimately, if you give the quarterback time, right, we're going to have an issue. And so, doing our job, our 1/11th of the defense is critical, right, and that's something that we keep harping on to our players of make sure that you are focused on your responsibility and your job within the framework of the defense, and trust that everyone else is going to do their job as well. And so we had a breakdown in terms of playing over top of a route that we should have been expanding on in that particular coverage, but there were other pieces that did not help in terms of being where they needed to be at the beginning of the play, so that we could leverage things out properly in terms of our spacing in that coverage. And then, again, I think our pass rush has taken some really great steps, but also when you're not getting pressure and you're giving time for those long developing plays on third down, that makes it challenging as well. So a little bit of across the board, right? You've got to continue to operate consistency, and it's all 11 guys doing their job, or often in those critical moments, something's going to break down.
We got time for 2 more questions. We're going to start with Tony here on the left.
The last 2 weeks, we've seen teams kind of hit you with that inside shovel. How difficult is that to defend, and how do you kind of correct that moving forward?
I think that that particular play, we've seen, I guess, probably Tebow and those guys at Florida were one of the first ones that started doing that in the late 2000s, and it's kind of been sprinkled in when teams sprinkle it in just here and there. It's really challenging for your guys up front, some of their eye progression, because you're getting an action at you that looks like sprint out for a quarterback or option for a quarterback, and then all of a sudden they're pitching the ball back underneath behind us trying to pursue. And so you've got to be very disciplined, very detailed in doing that, and then obviously your backside pursuit has to be able to fit and get back over top. So it's a challenging play. It's a really good wrinkle. It's one that we're probably going to continue to see every single week, and so we're looking at the different ways that they can do those plays and that they can run those things so that we can be prepared, for what. Nobody's going to do it exactly the same way necessarily, right? But they're going to have their own nuance, and so it's, again, it's a hard play that we've got to get prepared for.
All right, let's finish up with Colin here, left side.
Hey, Kane. We were talking a lot about early in the season about Quay Rusaw, kind of his development. I'm curious, over the past few weeks, what have you seen from his development? It seems like he's not seeing as many snaps over the course of the past few weeks. What have you seen from his development?
Yeah, Quay, obviously it was getting healthy the last couple of weeks here, has gotten himself into a position to where I think he's healthy and back and ready to go. And so we had him on a little bit of a pitch count, as we were working through these last couple of weeks. Feel like he's in a really good position moving forward. I think he continues to do some really good things on film. And so excited about kind of his full week of preparation, being a little bit, more 100%, if you will. I don't know if anybody's ever 100% as you go through the season, but healthier than he was the last couple of weeks. And so I have been pleased with some of the things that he's doing when he does get in the games, and I think that he has a chance, to create some impact in meaningful moments.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. Roll Tide.
Yeah, you're in cover two. Malachi, the one that got spun around. Yeah, Malachi takes the close instead of the outside.
All right, we'll have Coach begin with his opening statement. Again, just leave your hands up, and we'll get questions after that. Coach, whenever you're ready.
Yep, you bet. Good morning, and just rolling from South Carolina to Tennessee. Guys start the week, as we always do with Sunday, and just, bringing a good mindset, putting the work into the workouts, wanting to, continue to always learn and get better from the things that happen on a Saturday, and a lot of highlights. Obviously, a lot of things that you always got to continue to clean up, and it's in all phases of the game. But moving to Tennessee, we know we're really looking forward to, exciting. Obviously, this game is a big deal to to fans and obviously to us, and we understand that's the case for them as well. So looking forward to a really high level, heightened week with preparation and a big game on Saturday.
Thank you, Coach. Let's start with Nick, front right.
Yeah, following up about Tennessee, what have you been told about this rivalry, or what have you seen from it, maybe from afar?
Yeah, I've been told it's a big deal, and I know it's a big deal. You see it from afar, and it's these are the games, much like we've had already one or a couple here. Just they're the big ones that are on the schedule. As a coach, they're all big, right, in different ways, and you take one at a time. But we certainly understand the significance of the rivalry, and guys are going to be very motivated to go out and do their best and prepare well and be great on Saturday.
Charlie?
Just sitting at the midway point in the regular season, how would you assess the defense's play from an execution standpoint?
Yeah, I think there's every week something a little different that presents itself. I know the last couple of weeks, the big thing that's been focused on has been getting off the field. And so, you look at yards per play, and we're making some teams earn it, but we just got to get off the field. And when those drives continue to stack on top of each other, and there's more plays that your defense is having to play, it starts to wear you down and a little bit more. I think our guys, fortunately, we rotate enough in to where we can hang in there for 4 quarters. But there's always going to be little elements, and it's not just defense, but it's offense and areas that are going to pop up, and the way people attack and the way someone may view your schemes or your personnel, and so you continue to work on those things that we know we got to get better at and emphasize, but we also got to be ready for those other things too that just are part of the game, and making sure we got the answers, whether it's schematics or just that our guys are confident going out there and playing. This is part of the process. This is part of the progress that's got to be there when you're instituting new systems. I was thinking, I saw this, it must have been South Florida week, and I was sitting there watching last year's game, and I've had this happen everywhere I've been, but, you look at a play call, all right, and I happened to watch the South Florida game of us versus them last year, and the play calls from last year are on that play, and those play calls have the same names, right? It's just called something different, but there might be play calls that are called something a year ago that are something completely opposite or different in your system. And that's just something that's just part of the progress is guys processing. You're throwing something new at our guys to add to our schemes, to add to our concepts and the depth of what we do each and every week. And then they also have to do what we're doing and execute well against whatever we're seeing in front of us. And you try to find that fine balance on running what is your identity, what is your DNA of the systems you run, but also continue to build on those maybe families of what you do well, or continue to just grow, your entire offense, defense, special teams. So this is just part of it. Been through it many times. A lot of the ups and downs that you have, or maybe just execution didn't go as well as you want. Sometimes that's not the base stuff you do, but it's just the things that you have to continue to incorporate to continue to get to where you want to be, because it's got to be a volume of things over the course of a 12, 13, 14, or whatever the season is, and the length of it.
Go Chase, left side.
Coach Womack was asked this a minute ago, but I want to ask you as well. The shovel pass has hurt y'all defensively. Obviously, the last couple of games, South Carolina came back with one after Vanderbilt sprung two. Just from a game planning standpoint, is that something you got to expect to see once a week until you get it stopped?
No question. I mean, and it's going to get thrown at you different ways, the personnel or the formations that people line up in. You're going to try to find, from an offensive standpoint, putting those shoes on and just trying to, understand what that's going to look like in their scheme. And so it's going to be presented a different way. It's 15, 20 years ago, I was running that quite a bit myself. It's because it's a play that, you have to defend. And, again, it might be presentation off of a boot. It might be presentation a sprint out option. But you got to identify where everyone's at. Everyone's got to fit their gaps. Apply your rules is really the significance of it. And, people are going to use different things to try to really challenge your eye discipline as a defense. And that's one of the plays that obviously the last 2 weeks has been utilized in that way to challenge us in that regard.
Got a few questions from the back of the room. Ryan?
Coach, college football is based on a lot of traditions, a lot of games. To piggyback off what Nick asked you, what did you hear about this Tennessee game? And kind of a two-parter, are you a fan of cigars?
I know that this tradition goes back quite a ways. I know that cigars are a part of it. But I know that what I'm trying to do is just make sure we do our part as a football program and, prepare so that people can celebrate and enjoy the rivalry on our end. And a lot of respect for Tennessee, their coaches, their players. But, we're just pouring into the things we can control, what we can focus, and, want to bring that joy to, not just the hard work we put in personally and within this team, but also so our fan base can enjoy it as well.
Jonathan.
Hey, Coach, I believe just a few targets to Ryan Williams in the first 3 quarters of the game. As you guys go through conference play, how do you balance trying to get him the ball and also versus what the defense is maybe giving you?
Yeah, there's a couple more that, we didn't get where it didn't get to him or get completed. Ones where we were really trying to be intentional, whether it's a screen or just a matchup one-on-one. There's another 1 or 2 where the ball in a progression very well could have got to him, just like the other plays that he's had throughout the season where he might not be the number 1 option, but the progression will a lot of times take you there. He's got to be a guy that we're always really paying attention to as far as the number of targets. And, I think for the most part, we understand who those guys are. And a lot of them are in the starting lineup and maybe just the next guys in, that you have to be really make sure in the game plan that they're involved. And so that will always be the case. We got to continue to emphasize that, something we always look at each and every week as we lay out the whole plan.
Mario?
From the tape, what kind of challenges does Tennessee's quarterback present your defense this weekend?
Yeah, I think he's got he's a live arm, extremely talented. You can tell that they got the skill on the outside to where, they can hit the home run and make big plays anytime. I think a lot of it is just trying to disrupt him to where the continuity and the flow, is just not consistent. And that's going to be any quarterback every week. That's the goal, is to try to just really cause some chaos and change things up on them. They get into their tempo off of positive plays, and that's the key, is try to make sure that they don't get into that rhythm. Just like any offense, that's what you're trying to do. And he's talented. You can see it's there. He's still, I think, growing and developing, and we just got to make sure we disrupt him enough and make sure we're showing pictures and also getting bodies on the outside to where we make life hard like we would want to any other opponent.
Back on the left side of the room, Katie.
After Jalen threw that interception at the beginning of the fourth quarter, what did you see from him to kind of bounce back and put the mistakes behind him for the rest of the fourth quarter? And just, is that an area he's kind of matured in?
Yeah, and I'm really intentional with him because I know how hard he is on himself. And, this is really going back to, I wasn't with him last year, but I know in spring ball and just how he was, and knowing that we are, fighting for each other, fighting with each other. That's just not me and him. That's our football team. When we're in those moments, it's all about moving forward. No regrets when we walk off this football field, knowing we've given everything we've got, and that's just what I try to do when it comes to those times. Not just with him, with our whole team, and those tight game moments. We're all in this together, and we want to continue to learn. And so I'm going to remind him, coach him up on the situations we're in, how to apply the things we've talked about, throughout the course of our time together so far, how to learn what's happened in this game, and then just continue to move on. And we just keep stacking these moments on top of these moments. He'll remember. Anything that happened this game, he's going to remember what happened to him, 4 weeks ago. And that's what I love about him. I mean, he is up here. He lives up here pretty much wanting to be around the coaches. It's not just me. It's other staff members. And, just from my standpoint, to answer your question, I think, it's just a matter of continue to move forward, process, go 1-0, as you've heard many of our players say, and what that all means. Learn from it, flush it, play in the present, next play mindset.
Alex.
You had a pure feature back with Dylan Johnson at Washington, but here it's obviously a little bit different with JM and Justice, and obviously Jalen Milroe getting the football. With JM and Justice, I think they're averaging 15 carries per game between the two of them. Is that kind of the number that you'd like to see? And does that limit them? Maybe that's the wrong word. Does it limit them in terms of the role they're able to get on as a running back when they're not fed consistently?
Yeah, I think you want to have two. We were kind of more forced, as you referred to, Dylan, a year ago, to have that with some injuries to other guys. That number, I think we would love to see that be higher. Now, how come that number is lower? I think it gets taken from, some of J Mills' carries, which, how can you argue with some of that when you're rattling off the runs he's had? There's that fine line on using him and keeping him fresh and using these other guys. I thought Jam and Justice ran very hard. I thought the run game in the Georgia game, I thought we were very close to having some runs that really developed. And I thought there was another level of physicality by our offensive line and an execution that was just not just in practice, but also in the game this close. I thought that would really take the next step in the Vanderbilt game. Felt good about the week of practice because of the flow of the game. Again, probably not as many carries as in touches, but you can see there was an intentionality to what we were doing. And it wasn't just maybe in the run game. It's getting them out and doing different things with them. We've seen, touchdown catches and balls out on routes to both of them. They're very critical to our offense. They're extremely athletic. They can do it all. They're, every down backs in their own right. and we need to continue to grow. And I think we took another step this week. I think South Carolina had a very strong defensive front, not just up front, but tying the linebacker core and how they fit. And that was going to be a challenge going in, and I thought we took another step in our physicality and our execution. Thought those guys ran hard as well.
Go to Emily Grace, right up the middle here.
Coach, what's the in-game adjustment process like between you and Coach Womack?
Yeah, I think the key in any game plan is to try to have really almost everything you have in the plan as far as your adjustments. Now, when you're on defense, I think there are some things that will pop up that you haven't seen on film, that you got to refer back to something that you've done with calls in the past, and you try to really minimize that as much, because the things you practice are the things the guys are comfortable with, especially week 5, 6, still as a new team with a new defensive scheme. And so, we don't have a lot of these banked reps from a year ago with all our guys, or even 10 or 11 games worth. It's new things that pop up, and we try to make the simplest adjustments to where our guys can still play fast. Down the road, this will all continue to bank as far as the reps we have, the experiences we have. We can recall on something that we did as an adjustment, in the past, hopefully in the future, and execute quicker and better in the games ahead. But as far as the process between he and I, we're just constantly, between series, talking on the phones real quick, just like I do with the offensive side, just hearing what the next move is, or for offense would be, hey, what are you thinking the next drive? What's the starter? What's your next third and medium, third and short, third and long? And then also defensively, what are some of those adjustments maybe in those situations, or how we think they're going to come out based on the flow of the situation in the game.
All right, let's finish up with Tony here.
Is it easier or harder to scout a team when it's struggling? Because you're going to get maybe some changes from them, but at the same time, maybe you're seeing their weaknesses. What is it? Does it?
Are you referring to, obviously, or what are you? Any opponent? Yeah. Okay. Well, that they're going through it, and just I'm speaking really generally right now because that's the question. So. Yeah, that they're going to continue to try to find the things that really work well for them, and you got to be ready for anything and everything. But I think at this point in the year, there's still going to be some type of basis that you work off of, and those added things. They got to execute them well too, and that's where we're at. We got things that we want to add in and continue to do, but we got to get enough reps at them in practice on top of the things that we already a part of our identity, because if you can't execute it well in an SEC game when things are moving that fast and there's that many good players on the football field, that can backfire, that can hurt you. And so the key is making sure we do what we do, apply our rules and everything that we have, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, and then be disciplined with it. And that's going to be the name of the game here, this week, every week, moving forward.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Roll Tide.